Is Raj Rahman, and I'm a solution architect covering various areas of technologies. And today's topic is AWS Managed Services. As you know, AWS launches this Managed Services portal not long ago. And so I decided to put this video together to answer some questions. So, AWS Managed Services provide ongoing management of your AWS infrastructure so you can focus on your application. And all this information, which you will see on this slide, are public information. Feel free to use it any shape or form you want. So what Amazon is saying is, hey, let us manage your infrastructure. So, and how they're going to manage your infrastructure is they are saying, hey, we're going to implement best practices to maintain your infrastructure. They can help you reduce your operational overhead and risks. AWS Managed Services automates common activities such as change request, monitoring, patch management, security, backup services, and provide full life cycle services to provision, run, and support your infrastructure. AWS rigor and control help to enforce your corporate and security infrastructure policies and enable you to develop solutions and application using your preferred development approach. So basically what they're saying is, hey, look, we're going to manage your infrastructure. And if you have your infrastructure in the cloud, let us manage it. And we will help you, better, and you will get more benefit out of it. So what does it do basically? AWS Managed Services deliver consistent operation management and predictable results by following ITIL best practices and provide tooling and automation to increase efficiency and reduce your operational overhead and risk. Basically, if you engage AWS for managed services, chances are you're gonna reduce your on-premise the IT staff. And with this thing, they provide like operational excellence. They're going to provide a security and governance and advocacy and support. And we're going to talk about on each topic and what does it mean. Operational excellence. AWS Managed Services manages the daily operation of your AWS infrastructure in alignment with idle processes. Through monitoring, automation, self-service tools, AWS Managed Services will keep your infrastructure current and secure, quickly recognize and respond to events, and enable you to easily request change based on your need. Simply put, AWS managed service manages your AWS operations so you don't have to. So they will host your infrastructure and they will manage it for you. So you don't have to worry about it. And the second part was security and governance. AWS Managed Services provide a standardization for deployment, support compliance with your internal policies, and is integrated with Trend Micro. At this point, actually, I'm pretty sure they're going to change it in the future. Deep security for endpoint protection. Additionally, AWS operating environment and infrastructure template adhere to AWS architecture best practices to provide governance, control, security that are paramount to your business. So everything gonna be perfect the way it's supposed to be, so you don't have to worry about it. And advocacy and support. So with managed services, you get access to dedicated cloud service delivery manager as well as the benefit of enterprise support at no additional cost. So it's going to be, all the services going to be covered. While AWS Managed Services become accountable for the operation of your AWS infrastructure, you retain control to build and run your application and gain advocacy and support to help you focus on innovation. So you still have some control for applications, but complete management is done by AWS. So let's see what are they talking about in plain English. So AWS Managed Services will provide a change management, incident management, provisioning management, patch management, access management, security management, continuity management, and reporting. So what we're going to do actually, we're going to cover each topic one by one. So let's start with change management. What is change management? The managed services provide simple and efficient means to make controlled changes to your environment. For example, if you want to deploy an EC2, EC2 is elastic compute, just like a virtual machine, EC2 stack, or change your RDS, relational database, just like a SQL database, configuration setting, AWS Managed Services enables you to quickly and easily make the request through a dedicated self-service console. Changes follow a set approval process, and most changes can be executed immediately through our automation, or meaning AWS automation engine, while other can be scheduled for execution at later time. Meaning, if you want to make a change and you don't want to make a change in the daytime, you can schedule it, and that can be run after hours or on weekends, depending upon the policies. And what is incident management? AWS Managed Services monitor the overall health of your infrastructure resources and handle the daily activities of investigating and resolving alarm or incident. For example, in the event of EC2 instance failure, meaning you have a file and print server, AWS Managed Service would recognize the failure and automatically launch another instance and take the appropriate action to help minimize or avoid service interruption. And now we're talking about provisioning management. AWS Managed Services enables you to quickly and easily deploy your cloud infrastructure and simplifies the on-demand provisioning of commonly used predefined cloud stack, and integration with your existing ITSM service catalog allow you to quickly stand up application in either test or production environment through a self-service portal. So it's kind of self-explanatory. So let's go to our third option. The next option was the patch management. The patch management is always a headache, and it is the important things, in your infrastructure. How to patch it, when to patch it, do we need to patch it, did we test the patches? If the patch don't go, um, according to the plan, then something gonna break. So the patch management is very important. So from Amazon AWS Managed Services, they will take care of your OS patch management activities to help you to keep your resources current and secure. When updates or patches are released from your OS vendor, including Amazon Linux, Red Hat, and Microsoft Windows Server 2012 and later, AWS Managed Services applies them in a timely and consistent manner to minimize the impact on your business. Critical security patches are applied as needed, while others are applied based on the patch schedule you request. So you control it basically. And the access management. AWS Managed Services provide rigor and control by applying AWS security best practices to your infrastructure. Believe me, AWS is the best actually in terms of security and best practices. So by configuring default AWS security capabilities such as identity and um, access management roles, and EC2 security groups, AWS Managed Services simplify access management and remove the complexity of managing multiple authentication mechanisms, enabling you to use your corporate credential to use your AWS resources. Basically, what they're going to do, they're going to do ADFS. They're going to do a enable federation, so this way you can use your Active Directory credentials to log into AWS. Makes it pretty simple. And the security management. AWS Management Services protect your information, assets, and helps keep your AWS infrastructure secure. Yep, there's no doubt about it. Actually, it's the best in the industry with anti-malware protection, intrusion detection, and intrusion prevention system. AWS Managed Services manages security policies per stack and is able to quickly recognize and respond to any intrusion. So if you have a denial service attack, Amazon will take care of it. If you have some kind of outbreak, Amazon will take care of it. So it's win-win situation. Continuity management, AWS Managed Services backs up your AWS stack at scheduled intervals that you define. In the event of a failure or outage that impact your business, or at your request, AWS Managed Services can perform a restore of any of your backup as needed, including backup EBS volume or RDS database snapshots. Pretty important. And now comes to reporting. Okay, with AWS Managed Services, you have access to the data. What are using access to the data we are using to manage your infrastructure, including Amazon S3 logs, CloudTrail logs, instance logs, and real-time data from AWS Managed Services APIs. In addition, your cloud service delivery manager will provide a monthly service of key performance metrics, including operational activities, events, and their respective impact, as well as recommendation to optimize platform usage. And actually, the bottom one, the optimized platform usage and recommendation, this is very important as well. So this is the overall what Amazon Web Services, the managed services will provide. And now the next slide is like not from a enterprise perspective, but also from a APN, Amazon, partners network, their perspective. So there are a lot of questions. So we're gonna go on that one basically. These are the frequently asked questions. Hey, why did we build AWS Managed Services? So people ask Amazon, and so Amazon is replying, and it all comes down to customer choice. When your customer asks us, when our customers ask us for a capability, we listen. AWS Managed Services was built for Fortune 100 companies who asked us to develop the single vendor capability required for them to move thousands of workloads to AWS and receive compatible SLAs and capabilities of their existing on-premise solution and outsource providers. AWS Managed Services was our response to the very specific ask, and we are building the perspective standard and tools needed to unlock very significant enterprise workload at scale. We believe that there is a huge opportunity for multiple companies to be successful serving their needs, especially those that are using the cloud to reinvent the managed services industry. So this is the whole thing why managed services, AWS came up with this idea. So that's just the one question. Let's go to the second one is, so before you can start using service, so they say onboarding for AWS Managed Services is initiated through AWS Managed Services Jumpstart. Each Jumpstart follow a standard process and consists of three distinct phases. Number one, IT transformation, design and strategy, initial selection of application for migration, and the onboarding of the AWS Managed Services platform. For more information on onboarding to AWS Managed Services, please contact your AWS sales representative if you want to get more information. And the next question is, hey, how can AWS Managed Services help enterprise accelerate cloud adoption? Yeah, that's a pretty good question. AWS Managed Services help accelerate cloud adoption by defining a standardized operating environment and common application stack template for use by both cloud native and traditional workload. AWS Managed Services can fast-track cloud adoption by providing a turnkey service that augments and replaces your infrastructure management capabilities and maintains your existing operational processes. Is AWS Managed Service just for enterprise? So AWS designed AWS Managed Services to meet the needs of enterprise that require stringent SLAs, adherence to corporate compliance, and integration with their system and ITIL based process. While there is nothing to prevent smaller businesses from gaining value from AWS Managed Services, the level of infrastructure management is intended for the enterprises. So right here, they are saying, hey, basically, hey, if you're enterprise, you're welcome. If you are a small business, you can benefit, but it's not for you at this point. Does AWS Managed Services manage application? No, AWS managed services manages endpoint security, directory services, and critical network applications, but do not manage the installation, configuration, or monitoring of application. We have a community of APN partners, which are AWS partners who provide application management as a part of their portfolio of services. So basically, they're going to subcontract to their partner. What is the difference between AWS Managed Services and AWS Managed Services Provider, MSP program? So this is kind of tricky questions, and it's an important question. So AWS Managed Services is not to be confused with the AWS Managed Services Program, which thoroughly vets an APN partner's own managed service offering and next generation cloud managed services capabilities. AWS Managed Services is a new AWS offering that AWS Managed Services partner may add to complement their overall managed services portfolio. The partner undergo AWS Managed Services specific training, which includes simulated customer onboarding and operational experience with AWS MS API and CLI. AWS MSP partners undergo a rigorous validation audit of over 80 checks that include capabilities around application, migration, DevOps, CI/CD, security, as well as cloud and application management. They also have many years of experience in providing full cycle migration, integration, cloud management, application management, and application development. So that's the difference. So what opportunity do APN partner have with AWS Managed Services? So now we're talking about the partners. Why should APN partners join managed service, program? So AWS MSP partner, managed service provider partner, maintain a significant opportunity to differentiate themselves with AWS Managed Services. The traditional role of an MSP has been focused on running an operating environment, which is what AWS Managed Services is also focused on. However, next generation AWS MSP provides services well beyond this scope to help customers take greater advantages of cloud native functionality to drive agility and innovation across their businesses. AWS MSP can plan and design, build and migrate, run and operate, and optimize on an iterative, iterative optimize on an iterative basis from infrastructure through application. AWS Managed Services is able to fulfill the run and operate portion of the lifecycle of infrastructure for a specific set of customers and workload types, but many customers require MSP services above and beyond that scope. Key to the integration and deployment of AWS Managed Services, AWS consulting partners enable enterprises to migrate their existing application to AWS and integrate their non-premise management tools with their cloud deployment. AWS consulting partner will also be instrumental in building and managing cloud-based applications for customers running on the infrastructure stacks managed by AWS Managed Services. Onboarding to AWS Managed Services typically requires 8 to 10 weeks of design strategy, system process integration, and initial application migration, all of which can be performed by qualified AWS consulting partners. So how do APN partners and AWS Managed Services work together? AWS Managed Services is focused on managing AWS infrastructure, and customers will continue to rely on APN partners for many of the services they do today, such as hybrid, multi-cloud, application management, application development, and application migration. So that's still going to be done by APN partner, not by Microsoft, not by AWS. Customer can benefit from our APN consulting partners, deep industry-specific expertise for customer who want a single vendor to manage both application and AWS infrastructure. Validated AWS managed service provider deliver full life cycle support for application, while AWS managed services manages ongoing infrastructure operation. Uh, Figure that out, guys. How can APN Partner offer AWS Managed Services to AWS customers? In early 2017, AWS planned to launch an AWS Managed Service Partner Program that will allow AWS MSPs as well as AWS Migration and DevOps Competency Partner to add AWS Managed Services to their service portfolio. This will include a new AWS Managed Service designation as part of the AWS Service Delivery Program for APN Partner. In order to qualify to participate and become a designated AWS Managed Services Service Delivery Partner, APN Partner will need to complete either the AWS Managed Service Provider Program validation process or earn the migration or DevOps competency, as well as complete the specialized AWS Managed Services Partner training. Please bookmark the APN blog for up-to-date announcement pertaining to this launch. Basically, Google it, APN blog for up-to-date announcement pertaining to this launch. Now we're talking about how do AWS Managed Services leverage automation. Automation is pervasive throughout AWS Managed Services, but it is most prevalent via our change management system. A change type within AWS Managed Services can be fully automated, manual, or mix of both. AWS Managed Services will automate repetitive requests as encountered and fully automated change types, such as provisioning new resources, are self-service, meaning you do not have to wait for an engineer to execute the change via manual queue. Automated changes also have the advantage of having known risk profile, predefined rollbacks, and support concurrent execution. So you're getting more control. You don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. You can do it yourself. Will AWS Managed Services work with existing ITSMs? AWS Managed Services to operate via API, making it possible to integrate the service into a wide range of existing ITSM systems and development platforms. An AWS console presence is also available to fast-track proofs of concept and for interim operation before a full ITSM integration by AWS Professional Services or an AWS Managed Services partner. What industry standard does AWS Managed Services comply with? So AWS Managed Services follow ITIL, a popular IT service management framework used by many enterprises. Many of the underlying AWS services managed by AWS Managed Services are certified PCI, ISO, SOX, HIPAA, and AWS Managed Services is in the process of obtaining its own certification. Let's go on next. What operating system does AWS Managed Services support? AWS Managed Services currently support Microsoft Windows Server, Red Hat Enterprise, and Amazon Linux. Does AWS Managed Services manage all AWS services? AWS Managed Services currently support the 20 plus services most critical for enterprises and will continue to expand our list of integrated AWS services. Can AWS Managed Services support traditional workload? Yes. With the AWS services currently supported, AWS Managed Services can support the majority of workload that can run on AWS. How do I deploy application on AWS Managed Services? AWS Managed Services support three methods of application deployment. Number one is immutable. Applications are installed and burned into an AMI, which is used to deploy new infrastructure for each release. Deployment automation, which you can use CodePlay, Chef, Puppet, automatically install and configure your application on existing or newly created infrastructures using scripting and recipes. Manual, deploy your infrastructure and submit a follow-up change request for administrative access to install an application during a change window. Operational process and logging remains the same regardless of the method of application deployment, leaving the choice up to you and your application developer. Does AWS Managed Services manage on-premise resources or other public clouds? No. AWS Managed Services focuses on managing operation for AWS. So if you have a hybrid situation where you have load on-premise and on cloud, so you're out of luck. AWS Managed Services at this point, which is a January 2017, does not manage your on-premise infrastructure. And will I still have access to my resources? Meaning, if AWS is managing your resources as a customer, do you have access to your resources or not? As part of onboarding, AWS Managed Services will assume control of your account, but you can still receive full administrative access to your OS by filing change request, which kicks off network access via Bastion, activation of your corporate AD credentials on the stack, and logging within a change window. AWS Management Services Engineer follow the same process as you do to gain access to managed resources. All access requests flow through the change management, and neither party has persistent access to managed resources. That's very good, actually. Can I access my managed environment from my corporate environment? Yes, all resources are part of your private address space and domain. Managed workloads can access on-premise application, middleware, and data via AWS Direct Connect or VPN. So Direct Connect or VPN, meaning it does not allow using RDP without Direct Connect and VPN. Maybe. In which AWS region is AWS Management Services available? As of January 2017, AWS Managed Services is currently available in US East, West, European Ireland, and Asia Pacific, Sydney. I'm sure it's going to expand. Does AWS Managed Services use subcontractor for operations? No. Subcontractors are not used for AWS Managed Services operation. How much does AWS Managed Services cost? That's the million-dollar question, actually. The price of AWS Managed Services is calculated as a percentage of AWS usage within the account that we manage. For more information on pricing and SLA, please contact your AWS sales representative. And guys, this slide is basically for APN, not for a end user or enterprises. So basically, they are talking about what is the benefit for APN partners to partner with AWS for managed services. So number one benefit is they're going to be eligible for free AWS usage credit for development. If partner wants to do some development, eligible for free AWS usage credit for customer proof of concept. So if the customer, which is the APN Amazon Partners Networks customer, needs some credit to do some proof of concept, that's going to be free. Or eligible for fast track funding package. Not 100% sure what funding package we're talking about here. Access to NDA roadmap webinar, meaning non-disclosed, which is like a future product. So you're gonna have access to that one as a APN partner. You're gonna have a marketing benefits actually. You do a co-participation in AWS industry event, sales team showcase, eligible for marketing funds, programs and campaigns, promoted as an AWS managed service partner on the AWS websites. Again, these are the benefit for APN partners. Enablement benefit, eligible for AWS professional services workshop, access to MSP best practices guides, white papers and resources library, eligible for additional AWS training, um, sub, you know, subsidies, reduced price certification, bootcamp class, and free practice exam voucher. So that's it, guys. This is just just for information, and this is pretty new service, and it's gonna change. And again, the full disclosure, all this information in these slides or in this video are public information. Um, you can Google it, you can use it, you can reuse it. Feel free. And big thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you very much.